What's up, guys? Welcome back to Among the Fins. I am your host, Aaron, and on today's music review, we're going to be talking about the album Ultraviolet by the band Misery Signals. Ultraviolet has been requested quite a bit. It's probably one of my most requested reviews other than Tool's Fear Inoculum. And if you guys got anything you want me to review, go ahead and leave a comment below letting me know what it is, and I'll throw it on the whiteboard for you, and I'll make it happen. But if you do that, don't forget to subscribe and click the bell icon. That way you get notified when I do upload videos. That way you don't miss out on the review that you requested, because sometimes that happens and it's very sad. Started in about 2002. They are an American-Canadian melodic metalcore band, and the reason why they're American-Canadian is because they come from both Wisconsin and Alberta, Canada, and Ultraviolet is their 5th studio album. Misery Signals has had kind of a rocky past where the original band members all dropped an album when they started out back in like 2002, and then some differences and conflicts started up amongst the band members, and the singer ended up leaving, and I believe one of the guitarists ended up leaving, and it was just 3 guys, and then they got another singer, and he covered them for a couple albums, and then he ended up leaving, and they were kind of like, oh, what are we going to do? And then the original singer came back, and they kind of made amends a little bit, and then they dropped another album, and people thought that album that they dropped, where the singer came back, was just kind of like a last hurrah kind of thing to make some extra money off of a band name that's already famous. But then they were still just kind of floating around touring, and then they were kind of teasing a little bit about dropping another album, and then they dropped a single off of Ultraviolet, which was actually a B-side off of another album that was made like a 2016, I believe it is. I'm probably wrong about that. But then people were like, oh, this isn't a real thing. And then they actually dropped a real single that was specifically made for this album, Ultraviolet. And then people started to get excited, and now here we are. And it's actually really cool how the story kind of went from being a whole and then a broken band, and then just kind of having a replacement member, and then broken again, and then things were made better. I don't know. I think it's kind of a neat story. I gotta say that Ultraviolet is a breath of fresh air, especially nowadays when bands are releasing all the same kind of thing. They're just grasping at like climate change, and we're all going to die from different viruses, and the government's horrible, and this foundation and this corporation is just trash, and it's just all kind of the same thing. And the Misery Signals comes along, and they release an album that's full of hope and redemption, and it's very inspiring in a way. And the music reminds me a lot of something that the Ghost Inside would release, with vocals that kind of remind me a little bit of Jake Lure's from August Burns Red. And it's not a bad thing either. It's not like this band's just copying them or they're ripping off different things. Like, it actually works really well for them. And even though they kind of have the similar traits of those bands in different ways, it still works, and they still have their own specific sound to them. The album opens with the song The Tempest, which has some fantastic melodies and musical passages in it, just like every single song on this album, just about. But just like every song on this album, it has some amazing lyrics that are so good, and they just full of beautiful phrases like, when the world becomes so black, we must sculpt the night and remake the skies. Like, just the imagery that they put in your head with the lyrics, it works so well. And they really, like, I don't know, they make you see it in color almost. And there's a lot of different references to the sun, like in the song The Sunlifter. And in that song, not only are the lyrics good, but they also portray a lot of imagery from the music and the melodies, and the mixture of them both, it just works. It just works so good together. Like, a lot of bands just put off heavy music, and then they let the lyrics tell the story. And I mean, that works, but then you only have one storytelling element to your song, and you can make it a lot more dynamic and a lot more layered if you portray a lot more emotion from the music, instead of just making it as heavy as you possibly can. The 2 songs that remind me the most of the Ghost Inside is probably Cascade Lock and Old Ghost. And it's mainly for their guitar melodies, but I really enjoy the way how the drums that have just a fantastic tone, and they're insane, and they lay down this really thick foundation for the vocals to sit on top of, and the way how they're heavy and deep, and then You have the guitar melodies that are a little bit more trebly, and you have the vocals that are distorted and deep and more bassy. It's just the perfect mixture. It's not a little bit too much of either thing. And it also helps you really feel the emotion and the depth of the song on a whole nother level. River King might just be my favorite song, even though the vocal chants at the beginning are kind of awkward. And not gonna lie, no matter how many times I listen to the song, I just don't really agree with that decision on the song and the direction they took with it. And I think the song is about Charon or Karen. I'm not really sure how to pronounce his name, but he's the ferryman that when you die, you get on his boat and he takes you across the river into the underworld. And there's a lot of different references about having a coin under your tongue to pay for the fee to get across into the underworld. But after it comes out of that intro with the really awkward chants, you have some amazing vocals mixed with some fat, juicy riffs that just makes up for the awkwardness in the intro. So it kind of, I don't know, even though I didn't really enjoy it, I still like how it transitioned really well. It's got its flaws, but at the same time, I still love it. And even though I wasn't that big of a fan of the chorus, I still just, the overall sound of the song is phenomenal. And I really enjoyed how it ended on a chorus and it didn't die down. So basically it starts out kind of slow with these, like I said, awkward chants, and the song starts and the energy is just there the whole time. And the energy stays all the way up to 10, all the way through, and it ends on a more emotional side because of the chorus. And it worked out. I liked it a lot. I love this song. Even though, like I said, it's got its flaws, it's still excellent. And they do have some kind of interlude songs with vocals like the Redemption Key. I didn't really enjoy that song all that much. Typically, I don't like interlude songs, but sometimes I give them like a little bit of hope when there's vocals and kind of a purpose to it. But the vocals in Redemption Key, the clean chanting, I can't get behind the clean vocals on this album. They seem so awkward to me, especially just the tone. But the song Through the Veils of Blue Fire, that song was pretty legit. It's only like maybe 2 minutes long, maybe a little bit shorter. But I like how it starts out with this really ominous kind of just impending doom kind of feel in the intro. And then it goes into like this really inspirational sound with some great lyrics. And then it just transitions right back into that ominous feel. And it's freaking dope. It was so cool how they did that. And the song The Fall, which has some amazing riffs, some great guitar work, some fantastic drum passages, and some pretty good distorted vocals, for some reason just kind of fell in the middle ground for me. I don't really hate it. I don't really care for it. It's just kind of there. It's cool. But out of all the songs, it was the one I was going back to the least amount. And even though it does have kind of clean vocals in the bridge, it still worked really well. And I did find myself enjoying that part a little bit more than I found myself enjoying any of the clean vocals any other time on this album. And the post-chorus on the closing song, Some Dreams, has one of the best riffs I've heard. It's so simple and yet so groovy and effective. And the song as a whole has just a very overwhelming feel of closure and conclusion. And it makes it one of the best closing songs on an album I've heard in a very long time. And it's kind of like, I don't know, I got this sense of like a life that's been lived to the fullest, even though there's a lot of mistakes that have been made. In this song, the mistakes are being admitted, and the outro is very vulnerable and very passionate and personal. And by the time it's over, it feels completed. So with all that said, I gotta give Ultraviolet by Misery Signals a 8.2 out of 10. It was kind of hard for me to rate this album because this is probably one of my favorite albums I've listened to this year, even with all of its flaws that are probably more personal to me because I didn't really like the clean singing in it. It's kind of like when something's so ugly it's cute, you just can't look away from it. That's kind of how I felt with this, even though I really didn't like the chanty vocals. I didn't like any of the clean vocals in this album. It still works really well. And I really like the feeling of just hope and redemption that this album brings. That might be another reason why I like it so much, is because a lot of the stuff that's been coming out lately, like I said, is just so depressing and full of despair and just hopeless. And everything's just blaming stuff on other people and the world is miserable and everything just sucks, and it gets really old after a while. So it's just nice to have Ultraviolet, which it's a breath of fresh air. It really is. But I want to know what you guys think. If you've listened to Ultraviolet before, go ahead and leave a comment below letting me know what you thought of it. If you haven't, go ahead and give it a listen. Let me know what you would rate it, and let me know what your favorite song was. And if you enjoyed this review, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. If you're a Misery Signals fan and you didn't enjoy this review, feel free to give it a dislike. But at the same time, let me know why. Leave a comment letting me know why you think that Misery Signals absolutely sucks and this album's trash. Or maybe you think it's the greatest thing you've ever heard and it deserves a way higher rating than what I gave it. I'm sitting here giving you my opinion, so I would like to hear yours. And if you want to see more, don't forget to subscribe and click the little bell icon. That way you get notified when I do upload, especially if you leave a comment requesting an album you want me to review. That way you get notified when I do review it. I'm a pretty small YouTube channel. I see just about everybody's comments. I read every single comment I ever get. And I'm usually pretty good at getting around to every single request. It might take me like a week or two, but I usually pump them out as quickly as I can. And if you do any of those things, leave a comment, like, subscribe, anything at all, I appreciate it more than you guys could ever imagine. Even if you just leave a dislike and you tell me I'm one of the stupidest people you've ever seen and I need to delete my channel, thank you so much for watching my video and taking time out of your day to leave a comment, letting me know your opinion. I appreciate all of it. And I hope you guys all have a good rest of your day. You're staying safe, and I will talk to you guys next time.
I was